In Lesson 04, Examples 1 and 2, you'll be comparing rational numbers. In our first example, we're going to replace the circle with less than, greater than, or equal to make it a true sentence. The first method we're going to use is to rewrite the two fractions with a common denominator. If I want to rewrite 2/3 and 5/6 with a common denominator, I'm going to use 6. In order to get the 3 to become a 6, we had to multiply it by 2. So we have to also multiply the numerator by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And the second fraction is going to just stay a 5/6. 4/6 is smaller than 5/6, so we're going to put a less than. So if I were to answer this question, 2/3 is less than 5/6. Another way to compare two fractions would be to change the fractions into decimals, and that's going to require you to take the numerator and divide it by the denominator. Now, if you're able to use a calculator, this is a pretty easy way to compare them, but for this chapter, you are working without a calculator. So let's go ahead and practice some long division. For the first fraction, 2 divided by 3. 3 does not go into 2, so we need to add a decimal point. Put it straight up in your answer, and then add a 0. 3 goes into 20 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Now subtract 20, take away 18 is 2. Add a 0. Bring it down. 3 goes into 20 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. And you'll notice that you keep having a remainder of 2, so we're going to have the same thing repeating here. So our first fraction is 0.6 repeating. Our second fraction, 5/6, is 5 divided by 6. 6 does not go into 5, so we're going to add a decimal point and a 0 again. Put the decimal straight up in your answer. 6 goes into 50 8 times. 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract 50 minus 48 and you get 2. Add a 0. Bring it down. 6 goes into 20 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. 20 take away 18 is 2. Add another 0. Bring it down. 6 goes into 20 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Subtract, you get 2. And then you'll notice that you end up with the same remainder at this point. So it's going to be 0.83 repeating. Now when you compare the decimals, in the first place after the decimal point, we have a 6 and then we have an 8. The 6 is smaller than 8. So it's going to be 2/3 is less than 5/6. When you work on your homework for this lesson, you can do it either way. You can get common denominators for your fractions, or you can use long division to change them into decimals. The second example has you taking a list of numbers and putting them in order from least to greatest. Again, you could get a common denominator for all of these, but that might get a little bit tricky and cumbersome, especially without a calculator. Or you can change all of them to decimals. This first fraction, 5 and 2/9. This right here, 2/9, if you remember from earlier, 2/9 is the same as 0.2 repeating. So this one is the same as this. For 5 and 3/8, I'm going to change the 3/8 to a decimal, and if you don't know what the decimal equivalent is of 3/8, you'll do 3 divided by 8. 8 doesn't go into 3, so add a decimal point and a 0. 8 goes into 30 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. 30 take away 24 is 6. Add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract. 60 take away 56 and you get 4. Add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Now we have a remainder of 0, so we can stop. So this one right here is going to be 5.375, or 5 and 375 thousandths. The next number is already in decimal form. We have 4 and 9/10. And then the next one we have to work with is 3/5, or -5 and 3/5. If you don't already know the decimal equivalent of 3/5, you will need to do 3 divided by 5. 5 doesn't go into 3, so add a decimal point and a 0. 5 goes into 36 times. 6 times 5 is 30. Subtract and you have 0, so that one's finished. So that number is going to be -5 and 6/10. Now if we want to put these in order from least to greatest, you want to write them as they were given in the problem, not what you changed them to. And we're going to start with the smallest. Since there's only one negative number, that one's obviously going to be the smallest. So the smallest one is -5 and 3/5. Now, if I'm looking at the other three, the next smallest is going to be 4 and 9/10. And that leaves us with these two right here. They both have a 5 in the ones place. So now we're going to look at the tenths. We have a 2 and we have a 3. 2 is smaller than 3, so this one's going to come first, or it's smaller. So we're going to write 5 and 2/9. And then that means our last one, or the largest, is 5 and 3/8.